I'm not an expert on this office, but I got this lecture held by one of the members of this office, Andreas Jansen. He gave this lecture at the AA School of Architecture in London in January this year, and I've heard the text. If you want to have the real version of this, you could go to their website and homepage, and you will find this lecture there with his old text. So what you will get from me now is a very brief version of this. They designed the butterfly houses, and this is a mountain landscape in a part of Thailand close to the border of Burma. But this is a very remote place, and they wanted to build something of a social use in this area. These local people, they collaborated with the different ways, and they use local materials, they use local craftsmen to build this small building. This is just showing the way that these buildings were put together, and they are using a special sort of construction with this triangular constructions of rather short beams, and the explanation they gave for this was that the largest trees they could find in the neighborhood, they were already infested with different sorts of worms, and that wood was not really good for building, you know. And so they used younger trees with smaller dimensions, and then they put them together in these kind of constructions. They also used a local bamboo wood to make this very textile walls of the building. Of course, it's in a very warm climate, so we don't have to have any problems with insulation, at least not insulation against cold. So this is a whole group of local people who were in different ways involved in this project, and then you see the building behind. And these are the butterfly houses they built, which is a home for orphan kids, children without parents, and who are get these 4 or 5 houses for a small group of children, each of them. They are in 2 stories, and they have these very funny roofs, which are an explanation why they were called the butterfly houses by the local people. And the argument for this roof is that it's collecting water, which is used for certain uses in rainwater from certain periods. It also helps the ventilation. As you can see, everything is in local material. It has a very strong materiality about it, and very nice treatment of light in these buildings as well. And they are quoting Johanni Pallasmaa, a Finnish architect and architectural theorist, who is saying that architecture is about the understanding of the world and turning it into a more meaningful and humane place. And that's the sort of argument of what they want to do with this. We'll continue from the office of, as a representative of the office of Kaden Klingbeil, by presenting a project for housing in the central parts of Berlin, a wooden building, which is of course something which is of great interest to this region, since they are really developing these questions. So the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Yes, not only about this project E3, but also about the following projects. From the beginning, it was the concept to build a low energy housing and always to think in structural systems. More than 15 years ago, the office started with a typical process, I'd say, from a small office, building small family houses, single family houses and small public projects on the outskirts of Berlin. Our clientele could be quite very homogene, I'd say, and those well-income academics between 30 and 45 years with 1 or 2 children, buying their food in biological food shops and being very aware of what kind of material they want to live in. And these people, they asked around 2000, 2002 our office, when do you start to build with wood in the city center? And nowadays it's those academics who want to put more influence in the housing. And those people asked us, a private time group in 2002, is it possible to build a 7-story house in timber in Berlin? And This is on the right hand side you see the E3 and the development up to now. E3 at that time was in May 2008 the first 7-story timber construction in Europe, in inner city context, I'd say. And we have several projects throughout Germany, some in Lyon, in France. We also work with timber, always in combination with different materials. For sure, to make a 7-story house, you cannot only build in timber. You need other materials to make a combination. But mostly it's the majority of the material. For example, in E3 we have about 60% of 60 to 70% of wood in the raw construction. E is for Esmarch Straße. It was a bomb of the Second World War that made this untypical big yard. And the idea when the private client group came to us was preserve this quality of this site into the big yard. The idea, if you remember the image of the courtyard, was to leave this space free, the site free from the road into the courtyard, and to have a third facade. It has two advantages. You first break the two-dimensionality of the facade, and as you can see, the terraces that are adapted to the staircase, they are playing with this open staircase where you have a non-anonymous entry into the building. The people meet on these places. Apart from those two media stacks in the center, which are out of concrete and a central beam, the ceiling is spanning 6.5 meters from the outer walls to the central beam. We have no load-bearing walls in the center, so the clients were totally free to organize their floors. Before the moving in, we developed the floor plans together, and all of them left this contrast of the raw media stacks of concrete with a wooden ceiling and the white walls. People often ask us, we don't see wood in your construction. You're always mentioned in the magazines of making wooden architecture, but we don't see the structures. And in the beginning it was planned to cover step by step the facade, and it then was decided to leave the construction visible as long as possible, but that was only about 8 weeks in this situation. To come into the construction, we only have 3 details of wood steel joints. These are some images of the building process. I told you we needed only 8 weeks for the construction of the raw construction. That means on Monday and Tuesday they implemented the walls, the outer walls, with the post and rail construction. In this case, there was no cross-laminated timber, it was only nailed, massive wood, so we needed those Andreas crosses for the stability of the elements. The building was growing from week to week. In the 4th week, 5th and 6th week, and you see the staircase is only at that time at the 3rd or 4th floor. After 8 weeks, it was finished. We had building costs of 1,750 euros in the average, and with the ground and all together this asking price. It's not a passive house, but it's a low energy house. Thank you very much.
I have one question more. You mentioned the good or low energy use of this building on Esmarstrasse, and I think the number is 40 kilowatt hours per square meter a year. That was a norm. Could you comment on how common that is to reach that sort of low levels of energy use?
Yes, these wooden constructions easily reach low energy standards.